Hi, you're about to listen to the first official episode of the Tribute Games podcast. My name is Yannick Belzil. I run the social media at Tribute Games. I'm also a writer on games such as Mercenary Kings and the upcoming Curses and Chaos. In front of me, there's Justin Sear.
Hello.
Hi. So we Justin, why are we making a podcast? Like, where does it come from?
Well, we basically just talk about video games all the time, and we listen to a lot of podcasts, and we wondered, well, is this worthy of making a podcast? And hanging out with Carl Kerschel, who works upstairs at Studio Lunac, said, I'd listen to this, and we figured, yeah, why not? Let's do this.
Be wondering, what is a Tribute Games? So Tribute Games is an independent game studio where we're working in Montreal. We've been in existence for 2-3 years.
3 years.
3 years. And we're all people who met up at different game companies here in Montreal in the early 2000s. Everyone wanted to make their own games, but the industry would not permit it. So everyone decided to eventually leave the big corporate giants and make our own little workshop of video games.
Yeah, like the namesake says, we just want to pay tribute to the games that were made back in the day and put our own spin on it.
Yeah, so and working there, we just keep talking about games and thinking about how to make games. And one thing we've thought a lot is how of making video games seemed so remote and far away and foreign for us when we were kids. So we decided to make something that maybe a younger person who might want to get into video games could listen to, have an idea of how it is working here and what kind of discussions we have. And sometimes there'll be great, meaningful content about indie game developing. Sometimes it's just going to be about Pokemon and Dungeons and Dragons,
which is sometimes meaningful too.
Yeah, and both can be meaningful. So that's pretty much it. So we hope you enjoy it.
Yep.
To my left, there is our game designer, Dominic, known as Dom2D.
Hi.
Hi, Dominic.
What am I supposed to say now?
Have you been playing anything cool this week?
Yeah, I just started playing Dungeons & Dragons again.
Yeah.
After 10 years of hiatus.
On paper?
Yeah,
on paper Dungeons.
Yeah.
What are your dice like? What kind of dice have you got?
A bunch of dice. Because I'm playing with one dude that has played before, so he has a ton of all the colors you can imagine. Say a color.
Well, actually, I had some. I found my old dice bag recently when I was cleaning out my closet in my parents' house, and I had multicolored they were dice that looked like they were injected into the mold, several colors.
Yes.
It was like a weird pastel-y swirl of colors. They weren't my favorite ones. My favorite ones were a clear, kind of translucent blue dice. But I took great pleasure in doing the little crayon thing. Did you have the basics?
And who are you, Dice?
I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons here.
Yes.
I'm Carl Kerschel. I'm from upstairs.
And a question.
Not like a Michael Landon Highway to Heaven way. I'm from the studio upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm a comic book artist.
Yeah.
I'm just here hanging out.
Yeah. I'm talking about. Yeah, please keep going on.
Oh no, it's fine.
Do you have any creepy made from ivory or?
Dice? No, I don't have any ivory dice. I don't have that many dice. It sounds like I've got a lot, but I don't know.
Well, I played Dungeons & Dragons back in the day, and if you had to roll something like 100, you just use 2 die 10.
Yeah.
Someone got me 100-sided dice, and it's just like a golf ball.
Yes, my friend had one of those.
And it's just,
stuff.
yeah, you just roll it, and it's like, tuck, tuck, tuck,
They
tuck,
didn't
tuck.
really have sides so much as divots, right?
Yeah,
A
exactly.
plastic sphere.
Yeah, it was more fun just to wait for it to watch to stop and be like, well, gotta do something now.
Yeah.
And who are you, Mr. High Roller with these giant dice?
Literally. Justin Sear. I work at Tribute Games with Yannick and Dom2D, and we've also got Steph here.
Steph is in the background. He interjects. He's one of our artists.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so we're a great portion of Tribute Games right here at the table.
And this is not a podcast about Dungeons & Dragons. It just so happens that I played that.
It started like that. So yeah, I'm asking around whether people
Do you play anything good?
Yeah.
That was the question.
Dungeons & Dragons is actually pretty good now. Because it's the new starter set for 5th edition.
Yeah, it's Wizards now, right? They own it?
It's always been Wizards.
Oh, before
TSR?
Wizards existed, it was old TSR.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Yeah. My first D&D set was the red box basic set.
Second edition.
Yeah, and was it second?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was like a basic starter set, and it came with like a couple of red books, like a manual and like a module maybe, and a set of red dice and the white crayon that you have to use to color in the wax on your the numbers on your.
But that's pretty much what it is now. It's just a single box for like $20, $25, and you get a basic rule book that is really good enough to play, which is weird because usually it's like 3 big, huge books at $50 each. You get a module for level 1 to 5 and pre-generated characters. So when we started playing on Sunday, we started right away. Like I let them choose which character they wanted from the 5 pre-gens, and we just started, which was amazing. Because before it was like, have to create your characters, takes like 3 hours, explain all what, you meet, or you send it by email and then you hope that they actually do their characters before they come, but one of them don't, and that's the end of it. But yeah, so we just started right away, and the starter set starts basically as a tutorial, because it throws you right away into a small battle that's super simple. Everybody gets to learn how to throw dice, how to do attacks, and then you move on to a little dungeon that has more like skill checks and everything. It's perfect, and it was amazing to get back into that. So you played before, right?
I played lots of times when I was younger, not in a long time. But that was my intro to role-playing games.
And when you played this time, you were Dungeon Master?
Yeah, I've kind of always been Dungeon Master. As a game designer, it's a set of skills that is shared between the two. Like being a master helps your game design skills, but being a game designer helps.
Yeah, it's probably fun to just like watch people and see what they react to and kind of take mental notes and be like, oh, more of this for future games and stuff. Yeah,
totally. And storytelling and freedom in games and everything. But the other side also helps. Like I know how to balance a game so I can make it interesting and hard for them, but not too hard that they're frustrated. So it's super fun.
Would you say, what's the one thing you say that it's taught you more than anything about game design?
It's what?
Being a dungeon master. Has it taught you any one thing, or?
That's a good question. I guess pacing, because pacing in a D&D game is really important, because you set up one game a week or one game every 2 weeks, and you have 3 hours, and ideally, it would have like a little bit of combat, a little bit of roleplay, a little bit of everything. So you kind of want to do, and a good challenge curve also. So it's kind of like level design or game design. So yeah, well, I'll probably talk about it more as we go on, because it's
very deep subject.
It's a very deep subject, but also it's such good game design, because they cleared it up, they cleaned it up. They made it super accessible to. So in older editions, you had to refer to the books, the player's handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide all the time. If you needed to jump over a gap and you needed to calculate your weight compared to the speed you go, and so it was a bunch of charts and
lots of math.
Yeah. Now it's all like simple rolls. Like it's an athletic roll, which is based on your strength. You roll a d20, you add your athletics. And if it's higher than, I don't know, 10, you make it. Like, okay. It's super simple. For the master and for the players.
Yes, Justin, what have you been playing this week?
This week, I finished Pokemon X.
I love how you say Pokemon.
Pokemon. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I mean, I started it last week. And
it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's your first Pokemon game ever, right?
Yeah, it's the first one I've actually invested more than like an hour into, and it's 33 hours total. So it's like a second job. if you stack it, bookended it, 33 hours is basically a second job. But this week, yeah, but I actually had a really awful week this week. Because from our last recording session, I had just started to have computer problems, and I think I'm fully functional just today. So it was a week of watching progress bars and having your hopes dashed. Almost there, yeah, for like a week. So I had a lot of downtime at work, and that was put towards playing Pokemon. And yeah, I don't know, like the game got really good after you finished it, because there's a lot of hand-holding.
That sounds funny.
No, but
30 hours.
Yeah, finally finished the game. Now it's kind of getting good.
But that's how a lot of games are made these days, because there's a lot of like what they call end game. So like once you finish it, you're sort of given all the tools at your disposal, because there's 700 of these buggers to get, and like I haven't even tipped the iceberg on it. So
what's your goal with it? I mean, is your goal to actually collect all these Pokemon, or is it just is it story based, or is it mechanics? You just like the combat?
I think it's like on sort of two tiers. Like if you want to just sort of like finish it and say you're done, there's that. There's a story. But if you want to have like a more sort of complete, I think it's to collect them all. But really, I think it's more about like honing your team and making sort of this elite team of 6 Pokemon.
So we tried a couple battles. Like, it's been one battle a day for the past 2 days.
Yep.
I thought it was kind of cool, like to have this challenge of challenging you every day. But last night I came home and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to figure out a team to beat Justin. I took a bunch of Pokemon and I was like, okay, maybe I could use this guy. He's level 10, but I could probably raise him up. And then 30, this guy's 30, I'll raise him up. So I went into a bunch of grass and I fought 2 battles and I was like, fuck this. I'm not gonna
that's the
raise
only
these
really
guys.
effective way to raise them is just take them out and fight them, right? In the wild.
Yeah, it's just make them
Can
fight.
you also just like feed them all sorts of nonsense and
No.
like breed them and that?
Well, you can
Yeah.
feed them candy, but they're like,
I don't know. I'm hoping we'll have a few more battles, but it's turning out to be a much more fun game now that it's kind of done. And it's weird to say, but I think that's how a lot of people go about it too.
no, but if you find a good one that's level 30 in the Safari or something,
Sure.
Are you gonna spend the hours that it takes to raise him up to level 50 to do battles with?
I got a guy yesterday and he was 40, and I just, you go to the net. That's the other thing I'm finding is you have to do you almost have to learn it like a discipline. Like there's so much information and like memorization about like what's weak against what. And I guess that's why it's like really aimed towards kids, because it seems almost academic. And
Well, I think it was when it started, and then like as they evolve. I mean, I remember looking at some charts, like strength weakness charts, and the chart is crazy. Like there's so many categories of stuff, and it doesn't always make sense the way you think it would. It's not like a fire, water, earth kind of.
Yeah.
All right, quick question. Yannick, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Machoke, because he looks like a tiny wrestler, and I like that.
That's a good one. Carl, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Snorlax,
Nice.
hands down.
Aegislash?
Aegislash, the one with the sword?
Swords, yeah, he's cool.
That's cool. I realized that mine is Doublade, the previous evolution from Aegislash, because he doesn't have a shield.
Right on.
Well, there's also the key one. It's just a set of keys.
Right.
It's a Pokemon. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, they're kind of out to lunch on that one, maybe.
Well, when you have designed like 700 cube creatures, eventually like a bum one will get through. Like this one is Keytor.
But it's funny.
Keys.
Yeah.
It's a pile of keys.
Well, Mr. Mime, I think, is the worst Pokemon, right?
Really?
Yeah.
I believe so. Have you
He's
seen
just the
Mr.
one.
Mime?
I have not.
Okay, well,
Very unappealing.
yeah.
He's kind of creepy.
He looks like a weird, stunted human mime.
Ugh.
Well, I can segue from Pokemon a bit because I've been playing Ni no Kuni, and it's got kind of like a weird Pokemon element to it in that it's like a super straight up JRPG. You guys have played? Any of you played it?
Nope, not yet.
I played a little bit.
Yeah, so it's straight JRPG except with amazing like Studio Ghibli level 5 design and art. Really good story. Way better story than I'm accustomed to. Like I grew up playing a lot of Final Fantasy. And those are good. And this feels like the whole package in terms of, using a fun kind of all ages story to carry you through the different stages of your standard JRPG. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of grinding, but it doesn't feel
Imposed?
well, it doesn't feel superimposed, but it also isn't really tedious yet. Like it's kind of paced well enough that it's not annoying me yet. But the whole thing is based on, you're playing this kid who's like a wizard in this other world, but it's all familiar based. So you've got like, they give you these little creatures to start out with, and they're kind of doing all the fighting for you. And you have to level them up by giving them goodies and taking them out to fight. And then it turns out, I just hit the point where you can now start capturing creatures in the field.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you can collect, I don't even know how many there must be, probably hundreds.
Is there something?
There's a lot.
Go ahead.
If you look in the book that comes with it, there's that's my favorite part of the book, is it's just page after page
Yeah,
after page
creature
of
companion.
creatures and creatures variants also. Like
Yeah.
I think they can evolve or something.
Yeah, they evolve also. I haven't evolved. I think I evolved one now because like the part of the story point was this guy basically teaching that they can evolve and kind of giving you a freebie. Yeah, but the funny thing is, as great as the designs are and as sort of simple and appealing as the mechanic is, like that at that point I started to feel overwhelmed. Like I was happy to kind of play through this fun Ghibli movie / game, and now I'm like, oh god, no! Like I'm not just
No,
fighting.
it's Pokemon.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy that it's Pokemon, but it's also like, it's too much. Like, I'm now overwhelmed by stuff to do. And because I'm sort of a weird completionist, like, not only do I want to do like every little side quest and mission that I get in like the local taverns or whatever, but now I've got to worry about, capturing
them
every
all,
one of
yeah.
these stupid monsters. And it's not something like I was playing it really casually. Like, I was like just kind of enjoying it and being like,
And now
okay,
it's forcing you to not play it casually.
exactly,
It's
yeah.
drawing you in.
Yeah, it's forcing me. It's not me. It's the game.
I read something about the story of that game, and I don't know if any of it's like revealed at the start, but isn't it kind of dark?
It's pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like starts basically with this little kid whose mother dies.
Wow.
And you kind of have to try to save her by rescuing her kind of alternate self from this other world.
Whoa.
So I don't know, like, for all I know, that's a complete sham. Like, maybe that it's a Ghibli thing, so that
Yeah.
mother's probably not coming back.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be some satisfying, cathartic conclusion at the end of it.
I watched it on YouTube.
You watched the ending? Okay, yeah.
'Cause I was never gonna play it.
It's really long. It's like 60 plus hours or 90 maybe. I don't know if I'll ever get through it.
It's something I found out through Tumblr too. There are people who just watch games instead of playing them. Like, I guess some people like just all of the cutscenes from, say, the Uncharted series are all cut together as a tiny movie or maybe a big movie, and those people do not play the games, but they just watch the characters going through. They make awesome fan art out of it. It's all they need.
I can kind of see that. I mean, like, is it any different from like sitting on the couch while your friend plays a game
Yeah, it's
and
really
watching
the
it,
same.
which I'd love doing.
I never played Chrono Trigger completely by myself, but I watched 40-something hours of Giant Bomb people playing Chrono Trigger to completion. And I can say that I love that game even if I haven't played it.
But I mean, like, even some games have, I don't know if it's exactly that, but like Metal Gear Solid 4 had, I think, more cutscenes than actual gameplay.
You're watching more than playing.
Right. And for a lot of people, they just want to see the story anyway. So it's like, yeah, why not? That actually makes a lot of sense.
I started doing it with the X-Files CD-ROM game that they did like a couple of years ago. Like, they actually filmed it with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. And I played it a bit back then, and I would get chills when I got to meet Scully because I was finally talking to her, and it was great.
You
right
nerd.
now, and the cool thing about it is that it has alternate endings. So there are endings where Mulder and Scully die in the game. So you get to see scenes of Mulder's funeral with Gillian Anderson putting sunflower seeds on his coffin, and it's extremely moving. But it's not in real X-Files continuity, but you get to see it.
Oh, wait, so
I love it.
when you're game over, it takes like 10 minutes because you have to go to the funeral, and then
It
how
just
does it work?
it cuts to it and it shows you when you see it. It's a sad scene, and and the executive producer Chris Carter ends exactly the way an episode would, but now the heroes are dead.
10 minutes is not a big commitment if you've sat through the Metal Gear Solid 4.
No, I think that's
Talking about recording, and this probably ages us a lot. Did you ever, like, VHS record any of your playthroughs when you were a kid?
no what I did with the animations I made in Mario Paint. Like, when you, I for a while, like, Nintendo Power had this booklet that showed you how to, kids, Mario Paint was this game where, for the Super Nintendo, where they sell it with a mouse, and you plugged it in, you plugged things in back then, and you could plug it into your Super Nintendo, and you could make music, you can draw, and you could animate stuff.
Up to 9 frames.
Up to 9 frames. And I remember doing like a Zelda dungeon with Link who fights, and Nintendo Power showed you how to make the Zelda team. So I would write it on Mario Paint and just record that, and it was pretty cool.
You know who actually, I think, learned how to animate from Mario Paint was Schmorky, the guy who does all the animations on the...
Something awful?
Yeah, the Flash Tub.
Yeah.
And he describes how, like, that's how he learned to draw, was, like, through a mouse, and he's not given up on that since. And he says, like, for him, he kind of grew up poor, and that was, like, his only kind of form of entertainment.
It's a pretty cheap computer if you think about
If
it.
you think
and game and Photoshop-ish software. It's pretty cheap, and you could save things on it, and you could record them. And I think I remember doing my first real pixel sprite drawings to that, because you could
Make stamps.
you could make stamps, and those were like pixels. So you could make it. I think that's where I did my first real sprites as a kid.
I think they're due for making a sequel, wouldn't you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they will.
Especially with the Wii U pad, it would be like
Oh
obvious.
man. Yeah.
Nice.
All this stuff is it's an interesting window into your, really the beginnings of getting into game design.
Yeah, for sure.
Being able to draw something and have it get on the TV felt so real, and that's the closest as I'll ever get to make a video game or stuff like that. That was really powerful back then. I remember if only I had YouTube back then, it would be safe for prosperity.
You know what's go ahead.
Still feels kind of like that even now when I display stuff I drew on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
It has this kind of weird, nice feeling. It's like, oh,
It's more official now.
yeah, it's on the
It's on the
TV.
TV.
It's realer.
I felt that same thing when I was tinkering with Xcode and some like game making apps for the Mac, and like it'll let you dump the stuff out to your iPhone, and like something I made is now like I'm moving it around on the iPhone. It felt like it's like magic. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Everything is so accessible now. It's such an amazing time to be doing anything creative because
I think it's also about motivation. Like the kids these days are not alone in their basements, like being the only artist they know. Like they know that it's something you can do, and then they know it's something you can strive for.
Yeah, and all the tools, like getting like a Wacom tablet when I was in college, like you had to really save up for it. Like I remember like paying like $600 for like a 3x4 surface of live surface on the tablet, and I took that thing everywhere with me and I used it for years and it was great. Now that size, like you could steal it at Future Shop and they would let you go with it because they're like, take it.
probably find one on the street.
Exactly. like in Transcendence, it just props up the door or something.
I remember when I had my first job out of, or between the first and second year of animation, I had saved up enough money where I could actually like afford some pretty decent gear. And a friend got me thinking like, you should buy Photoshop. It's legit and you'll use it all your life. So I actually bought my first version of Photoshop.
Which one?
Photoshop 6. This is like 1999 or 2000.
Photoshop 6.
Yeah.
Is that like
Pre-CS.
Okay,
It's
so they were numbered. How far did the numbering go before they got to the
I think it was
C6?
like 6, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, afterwards it was CS.
All right.
But it was still like, upwards of $500 or $600.
Yeah.
And I'm just this schmuck kid walking into a place. And of course you get no service. Everyone's like trying to sell a high-end computer and stuff. So one other schmuck who's working there, he's like, yeah, can I help you with anything? And yeah, I'm going to buy Photoshop. And then everyone's like, whoa. They look at me and I'm like, yeah, I'm a high roller. Just, and that guy, and when I went back to that store, he was like so grateful because I think he got like a huge commission off that one sale. He was just like, dude, you're like the best. And I'm like,
Do you want another one?
can I sell you another? Yeah. So yeah, it's fun though. I mean, where do we go from here? Sorry.
Is that a life question?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess it's what's within yourself, what you want in life, what you see in others. You want to be part of the community. You want to go live alone. But we can also go to questions and topics people have sent us from Twitter because I asked for some yesterday. So now we just took a short break to properly mic Stefan. So say hello, Stefan.
I'm now surround.
Yes, finally.
Surrounded by idiots.
So I thought I'd go with questions and topics we got sent on Twitter yesterday. We had a lot of good questions and ideas, so we just use it for discussion fodder and stuff like that. One question that we had from Samuel Tinker, who's at Dark Astronomy, asked us if we think that the retro-style games and retro gaming in general is hurting modern games or helping it evolve. So what do you guys think about it?
I think it's great. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's hurting it at all. I think it's nice that the two things coexist. I'm always kind of amazed that people feel like they have to be so partisan. It's like, this is good and that sucks. It's like, no, both things can coexist and it's great. So
it's like preferring like one sport over another. They're just two sports existing. Like, the only thing they have in common might be that they're played in a stadium, but otherwise it's the same. Like,
But it's really two questions though. It's a retro style game, so the games like Tribute makes.
Sure.
So that's good
like
because it's variety, like it's compared to the new 3D AAA games. But the other part of the question is retro gaming in general, and that's kind of a competition that's really hard to go against in my mind. Like when you release a game, since all the other games are available for all the games that have been released in like the past 30 years now. You're competing with all of it now.
You're always fighting. The retro gaming is always there because it keeps existing.
Yeah, if you look at I think I've seen the charts for the 3DS eShop for the past month, and Metroid on the NES was above Shovel Knight.
Oh, wow.
So you can see how it is a competition. In a way.
Yeah, but there's also the fact that Nintendo promotes their own products way over anything else.
So then it is the retro gaming is a problem in a way. It's not. I'm only playing devil's advocate because we play retro games all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not really a problem. It's more like a filter. You can't beat the
No, but that's what he's saying is true. Is Nintendo on the eShop? There's like maybe 10 categories, and 8 of them are like their own games or retro games, and then there's the one section that has Shovel Knight. Like I don't know. It's kind of unfair.
Yeah, I think it's akin to the people talking about remakes and sequels in the movie theaters. Well, people are going to see these movies and people are buying these games.
Yep.
So people want to play these things, so they still get sold and they still get downloaded and they're still active because of that. So
I guess the one thing I'll just end with that too is, I guess, for retro gaming, I'm glad that there's like a legitimacy to it now. Like people used to think, oh, you're just doing it because you're nostalgic. Yes, that's one part of it, but it's kind of like an art form into itself now. People do it just for stylistic reasons. Like I like the 8-bit look or 16-bit look or whatever, just some tendencies from those old games. You can do it just because you want to, not because you're
committed.
yeah, it's for us. I guess it's a specific art choice because that's what we like and it's fun and it's where our roots are as an industry, but also like we all started, or a lot of us at Tribute, we started at the Gameloft in the pre-smartphone era. So we would work on games and we made this platformers with sprites and stuff like that, and that's what we've been trained on, and that's what we actually like. So we keep doing those. It's not about really cashing in on a trend or.
But Tribute is also kind of pushing games a little bit further than what they were, like in some directions. Like some games are being limited by that. Like we played Jet Gunner this week, and Jet Gunner is an indie. It's probably made by one dude or two dudes or girls. I don't know. It's a platformer, like a bit like has the controls of Contra or
like a Natsume game. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just run around and you shoot and you have a jetpack, and that's the thing. But it's like super small resolution with like 4 colors or I don't know, 16 colors on the screen. And it has the same tropes of like you have lives and there are some bits that are really too hard, like platforming bits, like the good old NES games like Ninja Gaiden or something, where you get hit by an enemy and you fall into the hole and it's completely unfair.
Yeah, you're fighting in these industrial cyber levels that are like Shatterhand and stuff like that.
What were the levels that we fought in?
Oh yeah, we were trying to guess like what would they be, and we were pretty spot on. It was like city,
factory. And,
airship. Yeah, so all the...
It was a bit too limited by the retro styling.
But the other fun thing about retro gaming, too, is, like, you can just pick an aspect of retro gaming. Like, I'm not annoyed, but, like, when people are too much of a purist, they want to replicate exactly, like, what an NES or Game Boy or whatever kind of game is. There's a challenge to that, but I think it's fun to just pick and choose the things you want. Like you can just do like level design, like an old school game, or you can just pick like a palette limitation, but go nuts with maybe the frame count or something. So I think personally I see it's more fun to mix and match aspects of retro gaming, but not adhere to them like a rigid rule. Or do it if you want. You know, it's fun to have the whole spectrum.
That's kind of what you're doing in Curses and Chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like the characters are what, 4 colors?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to keep it down to about like 3 colors and a transparency and like a 16 by 16 resolution per sprite. But we're going hog wild with the frame count.
And the backgrounds.
And the backgrounds, yes. But
Stefan is doing amazing backgrounds for Curses.
But then and it was fun because with the backgrounds, he started off with a much broader palette and then just kept chiseling it down. And by the end, how many colors?
16? 16 in every level.
Yeah.
And then I have like 32 for the whole game.
There's 32 colors for the whole for the whole backgrounds for the whole game. So
It doesn't show that much. Like, it's pretty colorful.
it's masterful. So
Actually, they at Jelly Scared, since we're in the pixel art discussion, like asked us like what is the best pixel art ever? Like what is the strongest memorable pixel art you've seen in games?
wow.
I was not working for you guys at that time, but I think the pixel art in Scott is really amazing. In Scott Pilgrim, because it's so alive and I don't know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't know much about pixel art when I started back in 2005 on the Game Boy Advance team at Ubisoft with Justin and Jonathan. Mm-hmm. So they pretty much taught me everything. And I think the first thing that really amazed me was actually Paul's stuff. Mm. And I remember that was before we met him on Scott Pilgrim. And I remember we used some of his stuff. We actually used or highly referenced some of his stuff on the Turtle game. Mm. And so that's probably the first thing that really amazed me. Like in the pixel art form, yeah. But then there's a lot of really amazing pixel artists out there. So.
What about you, Carl? You're the resident artist here. So.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar. I mean, I've seen a lot of pixel art, obviously, but I'd be hard pressed to tell you what my favorite is. I mean, honestly, like without trying to sound like a shill, like the stuff that most impressed, like the stuff that really caught my attention in terms of pixel art was when you guys posted the Kickstarter animation, like the early animations from Mercenary Kings.
So that was Paul.
And I thought, holy shit, that stuff is amazing. It was like the just the silhouettes, the silhouettes and the economy of it, and the animations they were.
Like Paul never disappoints. You can just hand him like a sprite and a very sort of basic outline of what you want things to look like, and it's always above and beyond the Call of Duty. And he asks, is this good? It's like, why are you asking me? And you know this is amazing. But he's great. You could say that all of his sprites do have a certain NES aesthetic to them.
Oh, wow. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
There it is for this week.
Yeah.
Just so we don't only plug our own team, any other pixel artists that you like, Justin?
Oh, you're kind of man. I mean, it's... no, but I mean, it's like, I wish I would have had that question before the podcast, because there's just too much of it. I don't know, like, I think the thing I like the best is whenever people use fewer colors and smaller resolution. And I do like the other end of it, where people, like, they make just these like huge vistas and you're like, wow, that's a nice landscape. And you're, oh no, wait, that's pixel art. That's amazing. But I do love it when people like just carve out a really well-defined shape, block it out with like just beautiful colors and economy of pixels, I think, is the thing I like the best. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think a lot of old school stuff, like, you know, Nintendo was amazing. Like,
yeah, there's whoever were working on the sprites for all that run of Disney Capcom games.
Oh my god,
they were all extremely good. They're all tiny, cuter, squat versions of
Scrooge McDuck,
of Darkwing Duck, of like. Yeah, exactly. Chip and Dale made even like cuter, all that stuff. The fact that they could just recreate those characters so small and adorable screen.
Yeah, because you have to like rethink about like economy of just silhouette and all the other things that you were talking about, because you are so limited. You just have to like restrict it to the very simplest amount of details that you can. So there is an art to it. It's really, I think the thing I like best is that it's a very sort of perfecting art style, because you are so limited. Mm-hmm. But in that limitation, it's like, well, I can only move it here or here. So you can, in a weird sort of way, attain a certain amount of perfection. And for people that are kind of OCD perfectionists, it's a really satisfying medium to work in.
But I just have a name, Joanne Vinet.
Oh, yeah.
Who's an awesome artist.
I was just thinking, as you guys are talking, I'm just wondering, do you differentiate pixel art from, like, say, just sprite animation? Like say, the Street Fighters And I mean, that's technically pixel art.
Yeah.
It's just really detailed. It looks like line drawings that someone just drew over. I
That's
mean,
exactly what it is.
it's less about economy and more about creating fluid animations
Sure.
out of pixels and not vectors or whatever. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, even in like some of the Street Fighter sprites or the earlier ones, like the characters, although large, they're still only about 100 pixels tall, and they're only 16 colors, which seems like a lot. But in some characters, they even have like less than that. And so when you see, like, you just cut it out, like, limited but color by color, you can see like, oh wow, they really had to think about where they were going to put stuff. And again, sometimes you'll see, if you're lucky, they'll show you like what the pre-scanned line art looks like and the finished product, and you're like, they took some liberties and they really had to redraw it practically. It's almost like the difference between a cleanup artist and a rough animation. To explain the animation process, like at Disney, they'll have someone who roughs out the animation, and so, like maybe the top guy would be someone like Glenn Keane, who did like all the animation on Tarzan. When you look at his roughs, some of them are just chicken scratches. It's barely a drawing. It's just like silhouettes and just
gestures.
Yeah, exactly. But then the cleanup artist has to go and redraw it and make it look like a three.
They're like 2D modelers.
Yeah. Like you have to have really good draftsman skills. You have to like think very three-dimensionally, and that's again what a lot of pixel artists for those sprites had to do. They had to like redraw and rethink. But depending on what the level of the original line art was. So, yeah, even for large sprites, I mean, I think it's past a certain point where it becomes something else altogether. But even on those large end sprites, it's still pixel art. So it's fun. There's actually like a lot of spectrum from just within pixel art too. So
thanks to people who send topics and questions. We have a lot of good ones, so we'll save some more for another episode, for next week's episode. And I think that's how we'll close out this episode for this week. So, guys, where can people find you on the internet this week? Plug your stuff, your presences.
Yeah, look me up on Twitter, because that's where I post all my random doodles at Dom2D.
Yep. Okay, on Twitter, Justin_Cyr, CYR.
At Carl Kerschel on Twitter.
Yeah, look at this stuff. You have colored panels coming out for your...
Yeah, colored panels have Gotham Academy.
Yeah.
Oh, the more came today.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll show you guys.
Cool. Yes. Stefan is not on the internet.
He's not even here, really.
He's not really here. You can find me at Yannick Belzil, but I also run the Twitter account for the company, which is at Tribute Games. And yes, if you have any questions or other stuff you want to ask about, next time in the upcoming episodes, we'll go more into game development and working for like an indie company versus working for a larger company, because that's all stuff we did. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here. And we hope you've enjoyed this first official episode of the Tribute Game Podcast. And we'll see you. We won't see you, but you'll hear us next week.
Thanks.